safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
Welcome to another incredible day in the African bush, and we are with the tallest creature in Africa, and this is Safari Live.
Ready. Standing by.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. You are live, you are live.
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to this, your beautiful, beautiful sunset-ish cloudy safari here from the western fringes of the great Kruger National Park. It's marvelous to have you with us. My name is James Henry. Out on foot, we have Stefan Winterboer. You'll meet him shortly. You've met Taylor McCurdy out making her debut today. And, of course, Jamie Patterson, the elegant antelope, will be searching for the animals of Djuma, the place that we call home, a wonderful piece of wilderness that we call home. Now, over here, the world's most gorgeous office. Well, come and have a look if you'd like. We've got a number of things to show you in here. So apart from the 3 field guides out there finding the wonders of this place, we have a sort of museum stack going in here, as well as 2 special feeds. The first one is my very best friend in the world, and his name is Ronald the Rover. Now, we'll have a look at his mongoose eye view now. There he is, and he's sitting there with a friend of his called Henry the hippopotamus. Fortunately, his picture seems to be, frozen there, so I don't think we'll stay with him for too long. We'll have to give him a bit of a reset, but he is a mover, so he does move around with the aid of this little joystick. So we'll be discovering some of the more detailed things about the bush. We'll be using a microscope, we'll use Ronald the Rover, and we'll have a look at a number of the artifacts that are sitting behind me on the Shelf of Death, aka museum. Right, out on foot, Gendre and Stef. Stef, of course, walking Gendre on camera with his size 14 boots. Let's head across to Stef and find out what his plans are for the afternoon.
Yes, good afternoon, and of course, welcome to the Bushwalk. My name is Stef Winterboer. On camera today is Gendre, and we've got a plan to find lions today, or at least help the effort, is at least what we want to do. The last time we heard of lions in this particular area, they were somewhere here this morning. It was at sunrise at about 6 o'clock. They were roaring their heads off last night, and somewhere in here, I'm certain we're going to either find the lions, or we're going to find some tracks of lions. Now, we are pretty safe out here as long as we keep the wind in check and we know exactly which direction the wind is blowing in, and we're a bit careful about how we step through the bush. When looking for lions, it's always a good idea to scan about 20 or 30 yards in front of you at the moment. You want to be looking at and below bushes and trees. You want to be scanning bushes and trees in front of you, left and right. Hopefully we'll be able to find something here to show you. Now, a lot of dangerous game is found on foot in the Sabi Sands and in fact around Africa, and the reason for that is because we have some of the world's most gifted trackers working over here. And what a tracker is basically a person who has a skill at interpreting the movements of animals through the tracks and the signs left by their passage. And that sounds like a bit of a mouthful, but essentially what it is, it's following footprints, but not footprint for footprint. It's almost putting on a leopard suit or putting on a lion suit and being able to visualize in your head exactly what that animal was doing and why. Ooh. So that isn't an elephant, that isn't a lion that was growling at us, that was an elephant. I don't think it was growling at us, but it could be, very well be, growling at those lions. Now we've got this very low, deep growling noise coming from just in front of us. Definitely elephant. What we're going to try and do and see if we can get a little bit closer safely for you to have a look at these elephants. But we'll be back when we get through this thick stuff over here. In the meantime, we're going to send you over to Jamie, who'd love to say hello.
Good afternoon, and what a fantastic time to be out and about in the African bush with the gentle drops of rain to be soaked up by the thirsty earth. My name is Jamie, and this afternoon I have VM on camera with me, and we've got exciting news. I'm really hoping that this is going to work out the way I have planned. I've got a very special surprise up my sleeve, a surprise that I've known about for a little while, but things have just conspired against us being able to get there, and I'm really hoping that perhaps we get a chance to see the dominant male leopard in this area. I'm going to head across to Red Dam on Arathusa, where Tingana has been, and see if he is still there. And just wait, if you're a new viewer, just wait till you see this magnificent male leopard with his big thick shoulders and heavy neck. Obviously, we started off with the retreating tail of an Impala, and they've done just that. What Stef said he was going to do earlier, going through some thick bush, well, the Impala seemed to have the same idea. On a dark and windy afternoon, without any further ado, let's go see what we can find. It's absolutely beautiful weather. Although it's raining, it's not cold at all. It really is quite a comfortable temperature, and I'm hoping that it might mean a little bit more rain further into the evening. I'm sure you're wondering, for our newer viewers, where we all are and how this all works. Let's head across to James so that he can explain it in a little bit more depth.
So I told you we're on the fringes of the Kruger National Park. So the Kruger National Park looks like a boot, a little bit like that. I am the world's worst artist, I warn you. And we're in a section of land here on the western fringes of the great Kruger National Park. And the Kruger National Park extends into Mozambique on the east like that, and into Zimbabwe on the north like that. Altogether, 3.5 million hectares. That's a hectare, or 8.5 million acres, if you're living when in a place that uses the imperial measure. Now, that's basically the idea. That's the sort of positioning of that. And what I love to do in these situations is to be deeply dramatic when I can. There we are. I'm being dramatic now, you see? Excellent. Now, I will give you a sort of zoomed-in view of where we are and where Jamie's going. I'll show you where she's heading now. That's Djuma over there. Cheetah Plains is over here like that, and Arathusa is there like that. So those are the pieces of this great wilderness that we call home. And I'll just put a little DJ there for Djuma, a CP for Cheetah Plains, and an ARA for Arathusa. Now, Red Dam, which we will colour red because, well, it's called Red Dam, isn't it, is round about there. It's not actually red at all, and with any luck we'll find Tingana the male leopard over there, and he's got spots, obviously. And he's a magnificent fellow. He's a lot better looking than the drawing that I've made there. So that's where Jamie's heading. And then Stef is walking around sort of in that particular region there. This is obviously north up at the top of the map. And then Taylor, I think, is heading off towards an area around here, hopefully to find the great Queen of Djuma. I think that's what her plan is going to be. Perhaps it is. Now, this total area that we traverse is roughly 3,000 hectares or so, which translates to about 7,500 acres. So that's quite a nice big piece of wilderness that we get to look at. There are incredible characters here with us, and I hope that you will meet some of them during the course of this afternoon. Jamie Patterson has got some of those, not at Tingana just yet, but with something that Tingana might eat when it's very small.
Without that caveat that James just added, I did wonder if he was slightly overestimating Tingana's abilities. But absolutely, when a buffalo is young, it's definitely a potential meal for a leopard. But far more fearsome for our poor buffalo herds at the moment is, of course, the presence of our resident lion pride, the Nkuhumas, that have managed to, I think we did a bit of a calculation, a rough calculation, and they've killed something like 29 buffalo in the last 40 to 50 days. They have just been very, very well fed, and that, of course, is because the place is teeming with buffalo at the moment. It seems as though the presence of the rain with Djuma has been fortunate in that we've had enough rain for there to be a little bit of grass, which means that it can support these massive breeding herds that move through the area. And it seems as though at the moment, every single corner that we drive around, there's another buffalo herd waiting. Look at this old cow looking at us. I know that she's old. I say she's old. She might not be. She might just be rubbed down. But I think she is quite aged. Just in terms of if you have a look at not just the bald patches around her face, because that can come from rubbing and scratching skin conditions, or even just rubbing the preorbital glands to scent mark. Look at her horns. You can see where they meet in the middle how worn away that has become. I think it's probably safe to say she is quite an old girl. Here's a younger one that just walked in front of her as if to say, hey, give me some attention. And they're all moving through. Now, of course, the reason we are so jubilant about the fact that there is this little bit of rain is South Africa is in the grips of a terrible drought. And despite the fact that we've had rain, to say that the drought is over is, I think, a little bit preemptive. And all of the buffalo really struggling to find the food that they need to support themselves. This is quite a small herd, but a buffalo herd can reach up to many, many individuals in number. I would say we're probably looking at about 30 or so buffalo here. Breeding herds can be up to 400, 500, even 1,000 or more. Although we generally see sort of around 400 to 500. You just have a look at that calf there, Viam. Just go to its back. That looks like it might have had an injury that's now healing. And what I first thought was dried blood, I think is actually maybe bits of mud that it's managed to roll into. Buffalo are clever when they've got an injury like that. They'll often go and rub themselves in the thick, glutinous, muddy puddles to help to heal it, and at least keep the flies and the ticks out of it. Well, I'm not going anywhere, since I'm currently in the middle of a serious buffalo roadblock, but while I wait for the buffalo to cross, let's head across to Taylor, who's got a never mind, we're not going to Taylor. It seems as though we're not going to Taylor for now. Instead, we're going to continue to look at our buffalo as they stream across the road in front of us. Hello, guys. Shame. I think it's a scary time to be a buffalo. They are all feeling a little bit thin and undernourished. Makes running away from lions that much harder. Right, now it seems as though we can go across to Taylor. Let's go see what she's found that's come out after the rain.
We have got a giraffe disappearing into the bushes. Hello, everybody. In case my voice seems a little bit unfamiliar, my name is Taylor McCurdy, and on camera with me we've got Brian, and of course, the very famous, the Thumb, who seems to be a thundercloud today. Now, I hope that your predictions are right, Brian and Mr. Thumb, because we need a little bit more rain. We've got a really big giraffe that's now crossing the road behind us. We'll try and position ourselves a little bit better, just so you can get a little view. But off he goes. He's a bit camera shy. He seems that he doesn't want to hang around with us today, but that's not a problem because there are about 30 of them in the vicinity, and we will find another one that is a little bit more cooperative, which is standing just up ahead. So bear with me while I just reposition the vehicle. Now this is a perfect example to show you that we are indeed live and the animals do whatever they please. Now there's another one right up ahead. We're just going to try and sneak up and go very, very quietly and see if we can get a better view. Now, this looks to be like it's a younger male giraffe. Right, I'm going to stop right here. It's okay, big boy. I parked a little bit on an angle, so you're going to just see Brian just tilt slightly. Now, I don't want to move the vehicle too much just yet. He's a young giraffe bull, and he seems to be not quite as relaxed as the other one that we had, who was much older and definitely had a lot more life experience. We'll just wait. We'll play the waiting game and see what this giraffe's next move will be. But while we look at this, look at those lovely eyelashes. Isn't that amazing? Don't you think they're eyelashes that any model would be jealous of? They're beautiful, and it's so important for animals, especially animals that like to eat leaves off of thorny trees, to have long eyelashes and very thick eyelashes like that, and that's to help protect them. Now, when they do feed, and hopefully we'll get to see a giraffe feed, and we'll be able to see how they close their eyes when they do feed. Now he's giving us a little bit of an evil eye, just trying to suss us out a bit. And hopefully he'll settle down in just a moment and realize that we really aren't anything to worry about. and maybe he'll start to feed again. It's something to keep an eye out when they are feeding, is those lovely long tongues that they stick out and that they use in order to reach out and grab bits of leaves that are perhaps a bit taller than they are. And I know James Richard, good afternoon to you. You were wondering, do giraffe have more melanin in their tongue than other animals? So, James, I think they do. I think particularly the browsers have a lot more melanin in their tongues. But, of course, the giraffe have got the longest tongues of all the African mammals. And, of course, they need them to reach out. So the reason why they have a little bit more melanin is, firstly, when they're sticking out those tongues quite often. If you had a bright pink tongue, I think it would get sunburned quite often. So that's nice. And just to have a little bit of a darker tongue. Their tongue almost looks like a chow. I don't know if you saw that, but I want to reposition. And also I've heard rumors that the melanin helps make the tongue a little bit stronger too, but let's go up a little bit further ahead. No, Jigger. Sorry, I'm learning to drive Jigger, and she only likes to be turned on in a certain way. Now, let's go a little bit further forward and see if we can't find another little gap to spot this big male giraffe. Oh no. He seems as though he doesn't want to be viewed by us today. He's disappearing. So I think we'll leave him alone and give him a little bit of space. But let's go back over to James, who's in the tent and has got something else for you to see.
Well, now, this, as many of you will know, is Gerald the giraffe, and he's a good friend of mine. He doesn't say a great deal to me, though, so it does feel like something of a one-way relationship in many respects. But, of course, in Gerald, as many of you will know already, there are some stingless bees who are our favourite characters on Safari Live. You know, some might say it's Karula, the Great Queen, perhaps the Nkahuma Pride. You can actually even see them there. But what we're going to do is have a look at them under the microscope, and I quite think that, the Nkahuma Pride are quite nice. The Birmingham boys are all right. Karula's okay with her two little cubs. The elephants are all right. The buffalo are even okay. But these guys, they are the best. Oh, there we are. Look at that. Now, that's the entrance to their waxy little tunnel. Now, I don't think that these stingless bees are particularly enthusiastic builders, necessarily. This is now probably about 2 years old. Now, the bees normally come out as soon as you put the camera on them, so with any luck, they will come out, and you can see where they've been building, just on the edges there, and we can see down a little bit towards the sides. And that's wax, and inside, of course, there'll be a number of bees. And yesterday, in fact 2 days ago, when it was quite hot, we had them outside, and the giraffe was outside, and the sun seemed to inspire them, and there were thousands of stingless bees sitting around this giraffe skull. Whether they all went in or not, or whether they'd come over for some sort of birthday party, I'm not sure what they were doing. Anyway, that's the story there. They're not coming out here, so we'll take the microscope off, and we'll put these back. Now, the other thing I wanted to quickly show you, Taylor's been talking about the rain, so's Jamie. We've been talking about the drought. And the drought is obviously something that we hope is going to break. And one of the animals that hopes desperately that the drought will break is something like this. Now, this is a tortoise, everybody. Well, it's obviously not a living tortoise. It's a well-dead tortoise, and it's part of what used to be a Spix-hinged tortoise. And what I want to just quickly show you under the microscope is the formation of the shell. These tortoises are going to start to come out now with the extra moisture. They're living inside termite mounds, which Stef may well show you during the course of the afternoon. But this particular one was probably killed by something like a ground hornbill. And the ground hornbill is a particularly impressive bird because it's the only bird, I think, that's able to eat or to crack open a tortoise shell. Now, there's the shell you can see there, and you can see the join there of two scutes. And the scute are those little sort of hexagonal pieces that make up the... I'm not sure what you're seeing, if you're seeing me or you're seeing the microscope. Ah, right. There we go. Okay, doing something very strange there. Anyway, there are the scutes. And so as the drought ends, so these tortoises will start to come out. And I'll just show you quickly the one that this came off. There it is there. and that's the Speke's hinged tortoise. Right, now we're going to head off for a short break, and while we do that, of course, Taylor will be searching for the lions, Jamie will be searching for the leopards, this tortoise will continue to smell, and Stef will hopefully find something equally interesting to show you. Don't go away, we'll see you very shortly. Now, internet audience, there we are. I'm not sure what happened with the microscope there. I shall have to have a word with the very dangerous Russian in the final control. Anyway, let's head across to Jamie, find out how her waiting game for Tingana is going, and I'll catch up with you shortly.
And look at what we've just stumbled across, a female Steenbok. Now, as you can see, this little shy, there we go. I was about to say shy and secretive antelope, but there she goes out into the open, and this is very interesting. This is not a healthy-looking Steenbok, which you might think would be to be expected during a drought, but generally I've noticed that the Steenbok seem to be coping quite well with the harsh conditions that we've been experiencing. And this particular female is covered in flies. I don't know what it is that's attracted them to her. She's also got a couple of bald patches around her eyes. She doesn't look all that healthy. She looks quite thin. But then, if we have a little closer look, which I'm hoping we can manage. Might be a bit tricky because she's just disappeared. Whoa. I'm going backwards, but not so much on the road. Oops. Let me just try and relocate the place that I meant to drive on and try and go backwards a little bit. Get back to the bird that's calling in a moment. Ah, come on, little Steenbokkie. We generally get to know the different Steenbok that we see in these areas because we see them on a regular basis. She is there, and I think she might move slightly more out into the open, just because they do have set territories. So, in other words, you'll find them in the same place. Oh, come on, girl. That's exactly the way I wanted to see you, but not behind the trees. Look closely between her back legs if you can. I think she's lactating. I think she's recently given birth to a little baby Steenbok, which is one of the absolute cutest baby animals in the bush. I mean, these are one of our smallest antelope. Come on, girl. Here we go. There, you can just see them quite prominent between her back legs. There we go. Got a view there. I'm relatively certain that somewhere in her little territory, the Steenbok has got a tiny baby hidden. Our Steenbok, when they do have little ones, for the first few weeks of that Steenbok's life, they will be hidden away behind dense vegetation that could well be somewhere here. They've learnt very, very quickly, and it must be an instinct actually, rather than learnt behavior, to go and to sit and to hide whenever mom is away. So they'll go and they'll be completely still, and you can walk within a couple of meters, a couple of yards of a little baby Steenbok, and it will not move. That being said, sometimes they get confused, and I've had that happen once before, where I've gone walking and a little baby Steenbok has come wandering out. It wasn't a Steenbok, it was a duiker. That's not true. It was a duiker, but I imagine that the principle applies to both. They're both very similar little tiny antelope, and a little duiker came out and started calling to me, which was turned out to be a very big mistake, because then a cheetah shot past and grabbed it right in front of me, which I have to tell you was a serious surprise. It's amazing the way that the bush comes with all sorts of surprises. Mandy, you want to know what the current season is while I look for the animals that I saw disappearing around this corner earlier. It is not really early spring. We don't, in South Africa, particularly in the Lowveld, we don't really have the traditional 4 seasons. We have 2. We have dry season and we have wet season. We're now in our wet season, which is technically summer. We're in summer. I don't think we can call it spring anymore, though. We do have some nice, beautiful flowers coming through, which hopefully we'll be able to find for you. And here we go. This is the animal I wanted to share with you all. And welcome back on your live safari experiences. For those of you that have just joined us, can you believe that you're watching something happen right here and right now on Djuma Private Game Reserve, right up in the top northeastern corner of South Africa? My name is Jamie, and I'll be showing you around, showing you some of the animals and getting to know them all a little bit better. Starting off with this beautiful sounder of warthogs. And I didn't use the word beautiful by mistake. Okay, so they're not winning any beauty pageants, but there's still a certain attractiveness to these little creatures. Now, before the break, you were chatting with James about the effects of the drought and how it's all impacted the various animals. We had that buffalo herd as well from earlier. This is another animal that has really struggled. Luckily, it's really nice to see, actually, that these warthogs are in good condition as they move off. Part of the pig family, of course, as you may have gathered, but definitely not to be confused with a domestic pig. And there's only two that we get here, part of the pig family. We get a bush pig and we get a warthog. A warthog is the one that we see during the day. Now, they can be incredibly docile animals, but they can also be incredibly dangerous. They get used to people very, very quickly. And I actually know at least two people who are going through physiotherapy, or have been going through physiotherapy over the last few years, to recover from injuries inflicted by a warthog. And it's not because they're unduly aggressive at all. They're not aggressive, they're not angry, but because they get used to people very quickly, you often find them in people's gardens, in the gardens of camps, because of course those sort of areas are tended. The plant life is better for them to go and eat. And whenever they get cornered or trapped, they become very, very dangerous with their sharp bottom tusks. And although it doesn't look like a big animal, they are hefty creatures and they're capable of moving at phenomenal speeds. Now, remember how James mentioned that we were with that herd of buffalo and that perhaps Tingana might be interested in a young buffalo. This is an animal that Tingana has made a speciality out of hunting. Right, I'm going to head on and see if we can find that dominant male leopard that I'm talking about. In the meantime, let's jump on board with Taylor and find out what she has to show you.
We found one of the most overlooked species of antelope in Africa. And like I said earlier, I'm sure some of you are wondering who this strange voice is and what that blonde ponytail is doing bouncing around the screen. So I'll just quickly introduce myself again. My name is Taylor, and if you haven't met the thumb yet, have a look at this crazy thing. It's Brian's thumb. Amazing, who is a stormy rain cloud today. But let's have another look at these wonderful impala. Now, the reason why I say, and as I say this, of course, they're now disappearing into the distance, but I have no doubt that we will definitely they will pop up again and we will see them. Now, something quite amazing about this common antelope in Africa is the fact that they are kind of prehistoric, I suppose you could call them. They have not changed for over 6.5 million years, since the Miocene period. Can you believe that? Now, as you can imagine, when you're an impala, or when you're an antelope that hasn't changed too much over that lengthy period of time, you must have some unique characteristics. And you can see them quite nicely. I'm going to show you something that no other antelope in the world has. If you go down, Brian, can we try and have a look at those fluffy black patches on the back of their feet? Can you see them as she is moving through the vegetation? Those black spots on her hindquarters, you see that? It's quite difficult now, but I'm sure you got a quick glimpse. Those are called metatarsal glands, and like I said, these are only found on impala, and those are a type of scent glands. And what they do is, when the impala are startled or perhaps something is chasing them, what they will do is they'll often jump high into the air and they tend to disperse, and when they give those back legs a kick up into the air, it releases a spray in the form of a pheromone. And what they're able to do is they're able to relocate each other after perhaps something has given them a fright or given chase to them and they've all had to run away. Now, these of course are only theories, but I think it's quite a good one and something quite unique technique that no one else has in the African bush. Isn't that amazing? Now, they've all moved into the thicket. I was mentioning to Brian, actually, that it's funny how the impala are not eating any of the grass at the moment. They seem to be enjoying all the lovely new greenery that you can see on your screen. That's just popping off the branches of the trees. Isn't that beautiful? Well, I'm sure we're going to see some more impala again. And while I look for some more, let's go to Stef, who's got an elephant on foot.
We finally found those elephant. And I'm speaking very softly because the bush is very thick here. But they must be about 10 or 15 elephant right here. And I must be honest with you, it's so exciting. It gives you this, I don't know, anxious feeling, but it's exciting and it's fun, but it's scary at the same time. And it's quite weird, but what we got to try and do here is show you, but stay out of their sight and out of their smell. So essentially we can overstay our welcome a little bit, but I think we're okay here where we are. Now, the aim of what we try and do here is not to scare these animals. We actually don't even want them aware of our presence. It's sometimes a little bit more difficult than it would seem. I think they're going to come down this wash or this crossing in front of us. It might give us a little bit of time to see them again. But very thick bush, and I'm just making sure that the wind is constantly in our favor. Easily now about 10 or 15 elephant. I tell you, there's things that give you a bigger rush.
Right, everybody, never mind. Here we go. That is, of course, one of the trials of working in the African bushveld, and that is high-definition signal coming to you live from the wild sometimes brings with it a few challenges, and those challenges are what Stef is experiencing now. It is not that he has been run over by an elephant. He is, in fact, just having some trouble with signal. He's absolutely fine, and we'll join him shortly. Now, this, of course, nice link to the elephant is the fact that it also has tusks made of the same stuff, also ivory, and the other animal that has that, of course, is the hippopotamus. They all have ivory tusks, and these could, I suppose, be used for the same things that ivory are, but they don't tend to have the same kind of aura about them that elephant tusks do. Anyway, you were looking at a warthog with Jamie a little bit earlier on. This is a big boar warthog. The one that Jamie had, of course, was a sow, I think. And this is a big boar, and I know that because of the size of the tusk that he once had. And just look at the amazing kind of arrangement of the organs on this head. The eyes and the nose, there we are on the same plane. So if this elephant wants to hide, if it wants to hunker down, not elephant, it's a warthog, isn't it, David? Yes, warthog wants to hide, all it does is just drop into the grass, and it can see and smell and hear without popping its head up. So you've often, I'm sure as a kid, tried to hide from people, and when you pop your head up over the parapet, obviously we can't see and smell and hear on the same plane in the same way that this animal can, but that's because we don't have to spend our lives trying to avoid Tingana, the male leopard, which, of course, if he gets hold of you, it will be a deeply unpleasant experience indeed. So that is the warthog skull. And the other thing you were looking at with Taylor is the ancient antelope, the Impala. Now, although the Impala I'm going to show you does not come, in fact, from the Miocene period, it might look like it comes from the Miocene period, given its age, but this is a male Impala skull. And these wormy things here, you don't need to worry about. They're not actually part of the Impala. They are a caterpillar that eats the keratin sheath. So in much the same horn that rhino horn is, or much the same substance that rhino horn is made of, so this keratin sheath that covers the Impala's horn is made of that, and a caterpillar likes to eat these. It's called a keratophagous or keratin-eating caterpillar or moth. So that is the Impala, and we've seen the warthog. Stef is back online with his elephants. Let's go and take a look.
We are back online, and I'm still speaking softly. These elephants are still literally within 15, 20 yards of where we're standing at the moment. There's a slight breeze blowing from them to us, so we're still okay. These things do change, and they can change at a moment's notice. As I was saying before you left us, the object here is not to be seen by these animals. It's to share a moment in their lives, unobserved. But this female's getting a bit close. Okay, what I want us to do is back away so that we walk down that path. And let's just stay safe. Okay, we're gonna move. Okay, we're gonna move. Alright, let's just stop there. That female with her baby is the one that was giving me. Alright, come. Go. Okay, go. We still 100% safe here where we are? We're just getting out of their path, that's all. Okay, creating distance, that's all they want. This is so cool. Alright, come on. Okay. They're moving past us now. They're not coming towards us, so they're moving past us. They didn't really know what was happening. That was a close call, but I don't think they knew we were there. We just so happened to be in their path. Awesome. Alright, so now we're going to create distance. And we're going to go in one direction, let them go in the other. Yeah, I can see them moving away now. Alright, good. Let's cross here and get completely out of the way. Whew, I tell you, nothing better. It's lovely. Alright, we're going to send you back to James in the tent. We're going to get out of this thick bush. We'll catch up with you in a little bit.
That is such exciting stuff. It really is, and it makes me feel slightly jealous. We do have elephants coming around the tent every so often, but to be on foot in the wilderness is the ultimate experience of touching the earth and being part of Mother Nature. Now, from what you've seen there, you can't really get an impression of the size of an elephant because Stef is obviously slightly different perspective. That's a buffalo. We're not going to look at that. Let's have a look at this particular bone here, weighing in at 44 pounds, roughly 20 kilograms. This is the elephant's humerus. Now, the humerus is your funny bone, of course, and it's basically the top part of your arm. There it is. This is one bone for the elephant. So you can imagine how unspeakably enormous an elephant bull must be. That's its humerus. Standing next to me, I'm 5'8", so this thing is probably, well, about 3'3" odd. An elephant, a big bull elephant that would have had one of these, would probably stand at about 14 feet at the shoulder. So an absolutely enormous animal. And you can see there how incredibly skillfully he extracted himself from that situation without the elephants having any idea that he was there. And that, of course, is the whole point of our being out here. It's not to be brave and macho and show how dangerous things are. Quite on the contrary, it's to become an observer in the bush and to become a piece of the wilderness that has no effect on the animals around it, but at the same time, to feel that vulnerability that our ancestors would have. Remember, people have been walking the African plains for, us and our ancestors for over 2 million years, and walking around in a wildlife area like this with lions and buffalo and leopards and elephants, it just gives you a feeling of real kind of reality, and it's a wonderful, wonderful feeling. Okay, we're going to take a very short break now, again, and I'm going to put this back on its shelf. When you come back, Stef will still be with the elephants, but he might find you something really small and exciting. Taylor will hopefully be with some lions, and Jamie, with any luck, with Tingana at Red Dam, the dominant male leopard of the area that we work in. Come back shortly. Bye-bye. Hello, internet audience. We're still with us, of course. I got a little bit tongue-tied there because Kirsten started laughing in my ear. I don't know why she did that. I don't think I'm very funny in the slightest. Anyway, let me put this back here. Right, there we are. Now, Taylor has not found the lions, but she has found something that stingless bees like to live in. Let's go and take a look at them while I catch my breath.
We keep getting giraffes disappearing into the bushes today. It seems as though the animals think they're quite funny and are playing a game of hide and seek, but we will win. I've seen you. There it is. Just poking his head up. And one of my absolute favorite descriptions in the local language, now I'm probably not saying it very well, but James will probably be able to say it a little bit better, but I was always taught that a giraffe's name in the local language is Dlamiti. Now, whether that's correct or not, I hope it is, but the translation is even more beautiful. It means horse with its head above the trees. Don't you think that's a fantastic description? I do. I think it's wonderful. And off he goes. But let's try and keep up with him a little bit. This is a different giraffe from what we saw earlier. He looks to be a lot older. And maybe he's not going to be as shy. Let's just show him. It's going to open up a little bit. Perhaps you feel a little bit more comfortable when he's out in the open. But we'll just sneak over. It's okay, Mr. Giraffe. We only want to look at you. I'm going to try and get a little bit ahead of him. I think that's going to be my plan. Maybe he'll think that we're just passing by. We caught you. Hello. We caught you very briefly. Look at that oxpecker sitting on top of his head. Looks like he's going to a fancy hat party, but he isn't. Well, that was another giraffe. Sometimes things just don't go as planned. He's actually running away from us now. There he is there. He's very uncomfortable with us. I'm not sure what's wrong with the giraffe today. None of them want to be seen. And aren't you jealous as that giraffe licks his nose? Don't you wish you had a lovely long tongue that was almost about 40 centimeters? That's quite long. So just longer than the length of an average ruler. And he's able to do many things, not only use it to pull leaves off of a tree, but to also clean his nose. Isn't that quite nice? And the oxpecker's gone. I think the oxpecker got thrown off as he galloped through all the thick vegetation. We can see he's moving through now. And it seems like he's going to go down in the drainage line. And he doesn't want to be seen. Well, we won't pressure him too much. We'll let him go about his day. And that's something that we have to do. We've got to slowly try and habituate these animals. So try and always leave on a positive note. Just let them see you. Perhaps let them settle down. And then that's enough for a day. Move off. Carry on. Come back the next day, and hopefully they keep having positive interactions with the vehicles, and then they learn to not be bothered by us at all. Well, that's what I'm hoping. But there's a lot of giraffe around at the moment, which is wonderful. I'm sure we'll find one that will actually want to be seen and want to be filmed today. But we're going to carry on. So, I had a very quick look around for Karula, but it doesn't seem like I can pick up on any of her tracks, and she is known to zigzag through the reserve. If you're wondering who's Karula, Karula is the queen. She is the most amazing leopardess we see in this area, and she's got 2 young cubs. So she's possibly in a drainage. If she is, I'm going to keep searching for her. And while I keep looking for Karula, the queen, let's go back to Jamie and see how her afternoon is doing.
I was just thinking about Karula as Taylor mentioned her name. This is where we had that incredible sighting with Karula, Tingana, and a whole pride of... Oh, hi. Speaking of, hello, mister. Well, that was a very nice surprise, wasn't it, Liam? That was a lot easier than I expected. Oh, there we go. Mr. Tingana himself, with his newly acquired scratch across the top of his nose. He only had that for about a month or so. Looking very full-bellied, which immediately makes me think, where is this kill he's clearly been feeding on? Am I parked under it, Liam? I don't think so. What a lovely surprise. I'm truly chuffed. That was as easy as it was. I wasn't expecting it to be. It never is. Except sometimes on days like today when it is just that easy. And he is looking thoroughly peaceful and as if he's swallowed a beach ball. Oh. Has it been a tough few days, mister? Been a long time since we've seen you. This is fantastic. And just look at this, what an incredible sighting for you to enjoy on your live safari experience. If you have just joined us, my name is Jamie. I have VM on camera with me, and that is a Tingana, the male leopard. But before we go into that in a little bit more detail, because this is live, it's happening right here and right now in the Greater Kruger National Park area of South Africa. That means that you can send through your questions, and you can do that using the hashtag SafariLive on Twitter. So let's say you have a question about why this leopard is sleeping, for example. I'm assuming he is sleeping at the moment. Let's have a look. Why is the leopard sleeping? Why does he look so full? All of these are questions that you can send through. Why does the leopard have spots? Would be some possible suggestions for questions you might want to send through. Perhaps you've always wondered the answer as to why he's sleeping and why he's panting like that. Look at it, you can see he's breathing very, very fast. He's clearly got a meal somewhere here, or he has had a meal at some point relatively recently. Look at that belly. This is magnificent. For those of you for whom this is the first meeting with Mr. Tingana, he is the dominant male leopard of most of the area that we drive around in, so we see him probably the most often. He shares a territorial boundary with a massive male called the Anderson male. And there he is snoozing away. He's panting like that because his belly is so full and that digestive process is sort of breaking down the meat very, very quickly that he's just eaten, so he's hot. He's hot and he's panting and his belly is so full that he barely has room to breathe. This is wonderful. The last time I saw Tingana, he wasn't looking terrible, but he definitely wasn't looking his usual powerful self. He'd been mating with a female leopard called Shadow, the daughter of Karula that Taylor's looking for, and he was just thoroughly worn out from the exertions of his previous few days, which is why it is so pleasant to see him looking well and happy and positively chubby. Hey, mister, it's been a while. In fact, the last time I think I saw Tingana was when James was in the Mara Triangle, and he was hunting next to the lodge. So it is very special to see him. There is a... oh, fly! It's good to see I'm not the only one being plagued by flies this afternoon. I've had a fly that's been very determinedly trying to fly into my ear since I encountered those buffalo. It's actually hitched a ride and come with us all the way to Arathusa. It's nice to see that it's not just me. Oh, there we go, one very well-fed, very contented male leopard. Now, when I say he is massive, he is probably around 150 so pounds. So he really is a very, very large boy. Curious one. Very, very good question. Yes, you are absolutely right. This is, of course, the perfect weather for big cat viewing. Hello, my boy. Curious one wants to know if Tingana has to go and remark his territory after the rain. And yes, that's one of the big reasons why, apart from the obvious reasons, we love rain, because it washes away all of the scent marks of the various territorial animals, including the big cats, which is why very often, about a day or so after the rain, you'll see the territorial cats, the leopards and the male lions moving about and scent marking their territory. And since most of the scent marking consists of urine spraying, they do have to go and do it all again from scratch. Now, he will be at some point, in fact, probably this evening, depending on what he's been eating. What has he been eating? I can't work this one out. It must be down in near the water hole or somewhere in there. He's definitely eaten something, but depending on the speed that he finishes it off, he will be up and about this evening, scent marking and giving that incredible call that leopards do, that deep sawing sound. I thought that one was quite good, actually. Wasn't that bad for him? VM's skeptical. Okay, fair enough. Fine, you all do a leopard impression. Alright, I'm going to go and reposition to get a better view of Mr. T's beautiful face. While we do, let's head back across to James so that he can explain some of the key identifying features of our loved leopards.
I'm afraid I didn't hear Jamie doing her sawing noise of the leopard, but I'd quite like to hear that. Maybe I'll ask her to do it again. Now, one of the things that we use to identify leopards are the spot patterns beneath their noses and just above the whisker line. So this, if you'll excuse the drawing, is Tingana's mouth area. That can be sort of blood dripping out from the warthog that he's just eaten, and his teeth, if he didn't have lips, would be sticking out like that. Now, what we have is the whiskers, of course, all over here. There they are. And then just above them, each leopard has a unique sort of pattern of spots. And Tingana is known as a 5-5 male leopard, and he's got a kind of arrangement that looks a little bit like this. And this is a very poor representation, but it's just for diagram. So he's got 5 there and 5 there, and we refer to his right, our left, and then his left and our right. And we refer to the left basically as you'd read a book, so 5-5 male leopard. And that's how, if you were driving around here, you spotted a male leopard and you wanted to know who it was, that's often one of the best ways to tell, because those spots don't change. As the old saying goes, David? Leopards do not change their spots. That is correct. Well done. Now, I want you to just be very quiet for a second. And distantly, you may have heard ta-ta-ta-ta-ta-ta-ta-ta-ta-ta-ta-ta-ta. That is a bearded woodpecker. And we are surrounded by the signs of the spring and the signs that the drought is perhaps about to break. It's quite warm. There's a lot of sort of moisture hanging in the air, and that brings the birds out. There are two bearded woodpeckers tapping on either side of me, and they're tapping on hollow branches in order to sort of mark their territory. And it's a wonderful sound, and also the miserable sound of the black cuckoo. It's very sad indeed. It says, "I'm so sad." Stef isn't sad. Let's go and find out why.
Well, we finally made it out of that thick foresty environment we were in with those elephants. And I must be honest with you, I'm still a little bit fluttery inside with all the adrenaline. It was awesome. But on that note, I just want to introduce one of the other partners, or the only other partner we have on the walk. This is Herbert. He's our game scout. Now, Herbert is basically in charge of keeping us safe, being our eyes and ears when we are engaging with you through the lens. And so we're a team of 3 out here. That's how we walk around. But, you know, I'm still wanting to try and hash different sighting with you, and to be honest with you, I think it's a good time to do the one-word Twitter, the handle, and to basically try and encapsulate what you were feeling with me out in that elephant sighting. For me, I think I'd like to use the one word excited, perhaps, or anxious at the point there at the end when we were getting away. But why don't you decide what your one word captures what you were sharing with us with those elephants? You can send it through to the hashtag Safari Live, and we'll share it with everybody else that's watching over the next couple of minutes, I suppose, until the end of the show. All right, so now we're going to carry on while you're thinking of your one word which best describes that particular feeling. We're going to carry on. We're now walking exactly in the opposite direction to where those elephants were going, thank goodness, and we are still looking for those lion from this morning. Last time we heard anything from them, they were roaring in this very area. We did find 1 or 2 fresh tracks of a female lioness heading in this direction, and what we're basically going to do now is look at every single game path. Lion are quite routine-like in their way of moving through the bush, and they like to walk on game paths for 2 reasons. One, it's quiet because there's fewer sticks, and secondly, animals move up and down on these highways basically through the bush. And so if you're hungry and you eat meat like lions do, this would be one of the best ways of finding yourself some dinner. Now, we can basically see a game path just here. I'm going to show you what one looks like. This is a game path. You can see there's a much higher concentration of footprints in this area relative to anywhere else. All right, and that is what we're going to be tracking on. What I'm looking for is a lion track, and if we find one, you will be the first one to know. Anyway, we're going to send you through to Taylor, who's got a nest of some kind for you.
I think this is going to be my theme today, is bird nests. And well done, Brian, who spotted this crested barbet nest as we came through the drainage line. Off it goes. So that was actually a crested barbet that you were looking at that has hollowed out the inside of this marula tree. Isn't that amazing? Now, it's obviously very difficult to see inside, so we're just going to have to wait for the barbet to poke its head out so we can have a little look. And I'm uncertain how long this barbet has been here for. Perhaps it's been here for a few weeks already. Perhaps it's a new nest. We've been finding a lot of new nests over the last few days. So it's definitely breeding season for most of the birds. Now, they can lay anywhere between 2 and 4 eggs. So I'm unsure, very uncertain as to how many is in there. But that looked like an adult to me. It had all its adult feathers. And the nesting sort of, the incubation period is normally not too long. It's normally around anywhere between 19 and about 30 days or so, depending on the species of bird. So I'm sure it's somewhere in between there. And it'll be quite exciting to follow the story of this barbet. Now, I must tell you, a few days ago, I found a magpie shrike nest not too far from where we are now. And I'd actually really like to go and see how they're doing, because it has been a few days. Wouldn't that be quite exciting if I can actually remember where that nest was? Now that's always the interesting part. So we're definitely going to head around there. But let's hang tight just for a few more minutes, and let's see if this little barbet perhaps pokes its head out again. Are you going to stick it out for us? Very shy. It's lovely and warm in there. Really great spot to nest. I'm sure definitely out of the wind, nice and sheltered. However, it is a far drop from the ground. This is a pretty impressive marula tree that we're looking at. At all those lovely new green leaves. And it's actually a very well-used marula tree, not only by the crested barbet, but if we go down the trunk of the tree, have a look at all that mud that's been smeared on over there. Now, I suspect that there's an array of animals that have been using this tree after they've had a nice mud bath. You can see lower down there's a few patches of mud, so perhaps that could be from a buffalo, perhaps from a rhino, perhaps from an hippopotamus. And if you go further up the tree, you can see that mud spreads very high, and that can indeed only be from my favorite animal in the whole wide world, the elephant. And one of the reasons why they obviously go and have mud baths is to cool themselves down, but also that clay that they throw onto themselves suffocates any ectoparasites that are bothering them. And they normally come back after they've had a mud bath and find a sturdy tree, especially if you're an elephant, you need something that's strong, and they have a little scratch. And I suspect if we were to go and have a closer look, we may even see some parasites. It looks like it was quite fresh. It doesn't look too old, some of the mud. It's a bit crusty, but maybe from the last few days we've had some exceptionally hot weather. It's just this morning that's been a little bit chilly. I can't see any parasites there, but it's not uncommon to find ticks that have died and are wedged in the lovely fissured bark that the marula tree has to offer. And it seems as though our barbet doesn't want to come out anymore. How sad is that? Mr. Barbet, let's see if we can get very lucky and have one more little look. Or Mr. or Mrs. Barbet, whoever's in there. I'm sure it's probably the female that's doing most of the incubation. Generally, the role of the male is to feed the female while she sits on the eggs. But there are a few special exemptions when it comes to this. Of course, there's always exceptions to every rule. Right, it doesn't seem as though the barbet is coming out to say hello, but keep watching, because I think we're going to be back to visit this barbet. But let's go back to Jamie, who has got the king of the Sabi Sand.